Okay.
All right, so
Hold
this
on,
officially
Matt,
starts.
real quick before we start, I'm counting 4 here, so we just want to watch sunshine. I'm just going to turn my video off and not participate and listen, so that should keep us clear of that.
All right, no worries. I'll be sure not to ask you any questions. All right, so this starts our Public Works meeting. I don't think there's anything major to go over. I just wanted to go over Mary Yardley Bridge, Pico property, and North Main sidewalks, all the progress that's been made and how we're doing, so we can kind of go over everything and hash anything out before the meeting if there's any questions or concerns or anything. So, what do we got on the Mary Yardley Bridge, Liz? Let's do that one first.
I see a cat.
Oh.
So it's not me this time.
I was like, I hope it's not me, because
Does
otherwise.
that cause a sunshine violation if you have cats?
For Mary Yardley Bridge, we confirmed with DCNR that the elevation project was completed, and they also let us know that they are not having as-built done. So we are having somebody go out in the field tomorrow actually to check and see if we need any additional survey information to tie into what the new grades are, or if what we already grabbed will suffice. And then they're also going to take a look at the western side abutment on the Celentano property to investigate if whether or not the erosion behind the stem wall has gotten worse, and if we need to do more than just light grading and stabilization. So they're checking that out tomorrow. They'll report back whatever that shows. Then we'll move forward from there, and then we're very close to being able to submit for the GP11, which is the general permit that we need. But I spoke with the infrastructure group regarding how much work was left to do with regards to final design, and they said structurally all of it's pretty much there. The last thing that they need to get a detail for is the aluminum set of stairs that Gator said that they can provide. That would be the same material as the bridge itself, so we wouldn't have to worry about different metals being up against each other and that kind of a concern. So yeah, so the next report will probably include a summary of what the site visit tomorrow shows and what next steps may or may not be needed. But I think we're still in very good standing to have our permits and the bid package by early next year. The DVRPC trail grant application went out at the end of last week. We got the confirmation email that they received it, and we were able to submit that with 3 letters of support, one from DCNR, one from the Friends of the Delaware Canal, and then one from Bucks County Planning Commission. So we're very hopeful, and the conversation that I had with the grant people ahead of time, verifying that portion of the project that involves the towpath was eligible for their funding, I think we have a strong package. But they will not announce those projects until the end of March is what they're projecting right now. So,
and with the stairs that you brought up, is there any sort of like detailed drawing of that or anything to know what kind of hardware or what kind of mounting that mounts to the bridge?
We're trying to get that. We haven't
Okay.
Gotten that from Gator. That's one of the only lagging things that the infrastructure told me about in regards to the design side of things. So their plan sheets are done other than those details, and then the grading plan may need to be adjusted based off of what the site visit shows tomorrow. But then once we finalize all of that, we can submit for the GP11.
All right.
Is the stairs, is there isn't there only supposed to be maybe one stair? Is that correct?
I think so. I would have to take a look to double check what that is. I know that the goal was to minimize the amount of stairs needed as much as possible, and that the profile of this bridge is closer to the ground elevation than what the existing bridge is out there. So there isn't a need for as many stairs, but I think the ones that they're talking about are going to be on the west side, and then on the east side, we're grading everything, so there shouldn't be any stairs at all. It should just be graded up now that we have that portion that's realigning the towpath, and then there's going to be just a concrete pad that's a 4x4, and then a crushed stone pad of 8x8.
Okay.
So on the topic of stairs, and of course, I think those of us who use that bridge know about, it's not just us, but it's also like people with strollers and bicycles and all sorts of things with wheels.
Right.
I know that there are like these things that I've seen that are like, there's like a channel you put on stairs that you can put the bike wheel into and take it. I don't know if you need that, if it's just one stair, but is there a stair design that can make it easier to push a bike over it or a stroller? Like,
Yeah,
is
we
there
can
anything-
certainly ask Gator what their options are for the stairs if they have anything that's
like the most
specific.
user-friendly design for multi-purpose use. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you know how, again, this is just an aside question, maybe Paula, do you know how much they elevated the towpath? I was really surprised how high up it is now. It looked like a couple feet at least.
Yeah, I think it's like
It's
18
3
or
feet.
24 inches or something. It's
Yeah,
pretty,
I think it was 18 inches and it's all done.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah.
Amazing. You guys probably discussed this way before I came on board here, but there's no way to have a ramp instead of the stairs. Does that not work?
It's not that it doesn't work. It's just that when we applied for the GTRP grant, we were so partially funded. Like, we had requested close to $300,000 and we only got
Right.
$40,000. And so we had to truncate out the ADA accessible portions of the ramps. And so the goal was to make sure that this current design leaves the borough in a situation that, should additional funding be secured in the future, we could easily design that type of access and add it on. So that's where we stand with all of that.
To go for the ADA access, but is there like a ramp that's not officially ADA access, but in reality for a lot of uses, and
It would be helpful.
It would be helpful,
Yeah.
yeah.
well, I mean, kind of what the thought process was also is, I mean, I'm sure you walk that a lot too, that if you're able to get there with whatever you're able to get there to get down to that side, you're not going to have a problem going up 1 or 2 stairs, because it's not anyway near ADA accessible from that path.
Yeah,
as it is.
that's what. Yeah. So I'm sorry to cut you off. Yeah.
Yeah, so we are, in the future, if we can get more funding, there is thoughts to make the whole other side ADA accessible all the way to Main Street.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, I'm not coming from I understand the ADA issue, especially with the kinds of things that would have to be done to the trail itself. But I'm just referring to the actual use that I see there. My kids are bigger, so it's just bikes, but people with strollers, et cetera, and with multi-wheeled things that are hard to go over stairs. If it just seems like simple. If you have a staircase, you can have a ramp, and then it's like done. And then the majority of current users, outside of the ADA issue, which is much more complex because that requires the whole trail to be essentially, I guess, redone or.
Yeah. So the only other issue about wanting to have a ramp instead of stairs or what have you was just that it was going to increase any type of earthwork that would be needed on that side. Like, right now there are stairs, so you would just, there's no other work that really needs to be done. Like, it'll be attached to this new fabricated aluminum bridge, and there's not a whole lot of extra work associated with it. I hear what you're saying, and I don't think it would be that big of a deal to try and do that, but the cost of it would be different. And we reached the point where the main goal was to minimize cost as much as possible so that we could just get to the point of replacing the bridge.
It sounds like the thing to do is to do that, and then but to like make it so that, think about that ahead of time, because maybe like after this is done, it's paid for, it's built, we could say, okay, now what do it take to put a ramp in there? Not ADA necessarily, not yet, but just to put a ramp. It can be done in stages.
Mhm.
And is it such a thing where you could just bolt that on basically? Or is it like you have to cut part of the bridge? And in other words, if you think in advance,
We don't have
Do
the
it.
detailed drawings yet, which is what I was
Yeah.
asking for. So once we get the detailed drawings, then we can really see what it's going for. Because from the manufacturer, we kind of have like a scope of like a basic drawing from it, but we don't have really the detailed drawings that show all
Okay.
the attachment points and
Right.
all the
Right.
mounting points and
yeah,
everything that we need to know for that.
okay, sounds good. I mean, it's just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, and we did.
future
I know it
use.
is a little before your time, so but I'm fine with you bringing it back up so everybody's up to speed. We did kind of dust that at the beginning, and that's why we went for if we did get like the full 300,000
Right.
grant, we were going to do a full ramp on both sides. We were going to make it
Right.
ADA accessible all the way to Main Street, and then we kind of got 40, and we're like, all right, well here we are. Let's get something in there, and then we can always reapply
Right.
for new grants and
Okay.
take it from there.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
also the way the land goes there. I mean, in the future, again, I don't want to hold this up, but thinking about the future, it seems that you could grade it in such a because it goes down. You could actually do a little bit of regrading on the Main Street side of it.
Yes.
So it just meets up with the bridge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would definitely be
It goes right over
part
the
of
stairs.
it to meet the slope requirements
Yeah.
of ADA. So, but anytime you have earthwork and you need to bring fill in, things get expensive.
Right.
And I know that there was also a conversation about whether or not to at least have our design include the ADA ramps and have that just be an alternate. And council did not want to move forward with that. They wanted to just stick with the minimal, what we needed to be able to replace the bridge because it was a safety concern and to just move forward.
Yeah, and that's understandable. We have a time and money crunch. This has been long enough, and we don't want to get in the way. That's why when you say ADA, although I think we all support that. I mean, I'm speaking for others, but I think that we all support that conceptually, of course. But it opens up a huge area of every detail has to meet the standard, and it's a trail. So it's not like you could just snap your fingers and make that ADA. That's big expense and a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about the practical use, and maybe it's done in stages. So we'll see. I think we can move on. Thank you.
All right, so the Pico property next.
So that one I haven't done anything with because the last kind of action item that came out of one of the council meetings was that community economic development was supposed to decide how they wanted to proceed forward with an offer, because that's what Pico has requested, an official offer from the
Okay.
board. So I don't know if that's moved at all or who is supposed to be spearheading that, but that's what's in my notes.
We discussed that, and basically, I mean, I thought it was of council last time we discussed this in full council. It seemed everyone was in mind of submitting a contingent offer on getting the grant.
Okay, but was there a price decided upon? Because I know Bucky was waiting on that. So as far as I know, he hasn't done anything with it. Paula, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I don't think Bucky has not done anything with it, but I thought only thing we can offer is our appraisal value.
Yeah, they praised it.
At
Right.
most, but then
Right.
there was a comment by who said it, the planning commission, that yes, that's the most that we can offer. We could offer less, and then it was like, well, community and economic development should decide how we want to move forward. So
So basically, we talked about this last time, we thought a contingent offer on the appraised value of the land, that if contingent on receiving a grant for that money. And then if not, we kind of just thrown out there and talking about like submitting that first and then go to, not going in and certainly offering some kind of minimal value. But I know there's been other conversations, maybe at that point, if that's not accepted, then move on to, another face-to-face meeting and seeing what would be an acceptable offer and trying to come to another.
I do know through a personal Pico contact that the second appraisal they had done came in much closer to ours. So I can't imagine that they will find us putting an offer in for that completely unreasonable. But considering that they had initially asked for like what, $200,000 a couple years ago, us lowballing it, I think is just going to sour the conversation. But
Yeah, so I mean, we could talk about it at council, but I mean, basically, I think it's fair to put an offer contingent on receiving a grant and to offer the appraised value, and we can attach it to the contingent offer as well.
okay, well then I guess either John or Matt would need to make a motion tonight to have Bucky put together the offer letter.
All right. You up for making that motion, John?
Sure.
All right. Yeah, because I mean, we could put it together and see what happens. At least we'll get the ball rolling and moving. And if it works out, great. And if it doesn't, then we know.
Right.
It keeps open the conversation too.
Yeah.
It starts the conversation and keeps it going, so the doors aren't shut.
Yeah, and our internal timeline goal right now is to try and have a sales agreement that has a contingency in it in time for the April grant submissions.
Yeah. I like it. All right. So the last thing would be North Main Street sidewalk.
So right now with that project, we sent out the concept plan to the residents. We got some comments back. We're going to be addressing them. But the other issue right now is the utility poles that need to be moved. So infrastructure said that they were going to be submitting the preliminary HOP, which is just like, hey, we need one. We know that we do. Do we need a pre-application meeting? So that's been submitted, and then PennDOT will review that and tell us whether or not we need to have a formal pre-application meeting, or tell us to move forward with putting together all of the necessary attachments and such. So hopefully either the end of this week or next week, we'll have some more feedback from them. But my understanding of how that works is when that gets sent in, all of the different departments that will get included in the HOP process get notified, including the right-of-way group. And they are the ones that will have to put the request together to have the utility poles moved. So it comes from PennDOT because it's technically their right-of-way, and they tell PECO or whatever utility has to move their stuff, and they have to pay for it. It's not something that should be on the borough. The only thing that might be difficult to push is having them move everything out to the end of the borough. They might only legally have to move what's associated with this phase of the project. But we all agreed internally that we would push to have it all moved at once instead of having to go through this again.
Yeah, it would be cheaper for them also, so you would think. And are we still on track for laying sidewalk in 21?
In 2021?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as long as we continue to be successful with our grants, I know that we still need a good chunk to get the construction, but if we're going to use the credit line, yeah, we should be fine. Last I heard, we're still kind of on track to get through preliminary design by the end of the year, and then we should be getting permits early next year. So I can't imagine that as long as everything's cool with construction funding, we should be building this summer.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, when do we find out about the other grant? Is it February, I think? Somewhere right around there?
I believe so. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's right. I would say we'd probably go out to bid around March anyway, if everything worked out. So we'd kind of know, and all of council could decide, like, if we got a grant, it'd be one thing. And then if we didn't, we would know final costs and all the engineering would be done. So we could see about if it makes sense to use that line of credit or.
Yeah. And the most recent one that we applied for, which was PennDOT's MTF grant, that they won't announce until like the beginning of it. Like the earliest that they would be funded would be, like you would have access to funds, is July, which is why for that application, we only requested money for construction costs and not any of the design, because we wouldn't be able to invoice it properly, because the way that grant works, you can't proactively do it. It has to be within, once the grant has been signed and what
Okay.
have you. So ideally, we get that PennDOT grant, and then you guys don't have to use a line of credit at all for
Yeah.
the construction. So,
That's the hope. I'm hoping. I mean, we'll have everything in line, so we should hopefully be at the top of the list for that, because it's not like a hope, like we want this grant and then we're going to do it. It's like we're going to do this.
yeah,
So
no, it's shovel
yeah.
ready
Yep.
is the idea.
Yep, absolutely.
Mhm.
All right. Does anybody have any questions or anything about anything public works related? All right. Well, I guess that pretty much covers the meeting, right? If anybody else has any other topics or anything, we could talk about it. Otherwise, we can call it a meeting.
Oh, I think the only other thing that's been hanging out is addressing Whiskey Hill.
Ah.
So the pretty much what my conversation with Tom landed us at was that it makes the most sense to just do the same sort of rolled curb in that particular area.
In the one spot that we walked. Okay. All right. Now,
Is that okay? Do you have
yeah.
any
Now, do we have
objections
like
to that?
an estimate on that or something?
No, not yet. We'll have to go and request things, but I just wanted to
Okay.
double check that you were fine with that.
Yeah. I mean, that definitely needs to be addressed, because it's not only a safety concern. It's more. It's also going to end up costing more in the future, because the whole road is eroding in that area. So something's going to have to be done, and we might as well take the less expensive route now and put something in there
Exactly.
instead of having to redo the whole road.
Yeah. Okay.
Could you
Awesome.
just just let me know what you, since I live around there, I'd love to just check it out. Where are you referring
Along
to?
Jerview. So when Matt and I went and
Okay.
walked the whole area in early October, that was the only area that we noticed was definitely experiencing some deficiencies and would continue to deteriorate if it wasn't addressed. Everywhere else looked pretty okay.
So
And
Jerview, like how far up?
By Rich Wayne's house.
No.
No.
So it's
That's the other side, yeah.
yeah, it's the other side, right where you turn up, right before it splits into the other, where you turn on and you can make that immediate left. The house right on that corner on the right side of it, I guess on the
it's
south
river.
side of it.
So going up Jerview, there's the first street on your left and the second street at the top.
The
You mean
first
second
street on your
the
left.
First street.
Yeah, the first
Yeah.
street on your left, directly after that to the left, which
On
would
the
be the
left.
south side. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, the house that had like a big mound of mulch recently in front of on,
Yeah.
or like
Yeah,
wood
I
chips.
think so.
Yeah.
I haven't driven
It's sort
on
of like
that.
a woodsy. Okay.
Yeah.
So
But
it
if you look
was
right there, you can kind
Okay.
of see it eroded right in that section, and
Got
then the
it.
street actually like cracking
yes.
a little bit,
I
probably
see.
going like maybe a couple feet in or so.
And you want to just put a curb there to stop the flow
Yeah, like a
of
rolled
water
curb, so
erosion?
not anything like high or aggressive, something that just
I
kind of.
see.
Why does the one property have the curb there? The one house has a rolled kind of curb on it. I don't know why.
So there were certain areas where it was decided that the rolled curb made more sense than the stone trench, just based off the slope and then the severity of the rutting. But for the most part, the initial intent had been to create storage for the stormwater. So that's why we had the little trenches with the rocks and such. But
Is that considered something that comes out of liquid fuels?
it was partially funded by
Yeah,
Liquid
okay.
Fuels when we did this project, yes. But we don't have an upcoming Liquid Fuels project, so this would be its own little thing if it's
Okay.
going to be addressed in the
Yeah.
near future.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. Well, with that, I will call it a meeting, and I will see everybody at the 7:30 meeting.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
See you, everybody.
Bye.